So I never thought I'd be that guy standing in the middle of a bar, watching my wife grind against my best friend. But there I was, beer in hand, jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might shatter. It was supposed to be a fun night out with friends. Emily and I hadn't been out together in ages, and I thought it would be good for us. Clearly, I was wrong. I saw them across the room, lost in the crowd, their bodies moving to the beat of some pop song. At first, I tried to convince myself that it was nothing, just a dance, right? But then his hands started wandering. I felt my blood boil as I watched Jason, my so-called friend, groping my wife. Emily didn't push him away, if anything. She pulled him closer. That S when I lost it. I pushed through the throng of people, shoving anyone who got in my way. When I reached them, I grabbed Jason by the shoulder and yanked him around to face me. His stupid grin faded fast when he saw the look on my face. Before he could say a word, I swung. My fist connected with his nose, and I felt the satisfying crunch of bone breaking. Jason stumbled back, blood pouring down his face, eyes wide in shock. "What the hell, man?" he yelled, but I wasn't listening. I turned to Emily, who looked like a deer caught in headlights. "It wasn't what you saw." She started, but I cut her off, my voice trembling with fury. "Sometimes it's better not to see. Get your stuff and get out of here." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't care. I couldn't look at her. I turned and walked out of the bar, not stopping until I was outside in the cool night air. I needed to get away, to think, to process what the hell had just happened. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. I knew it was probably Emily, maybe even Jason, but I didn't want to hear their excuses. I walked to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and just stared out the windshield. My mind was a whirlwind of anger, betrayal, and confusion. How could she do this to me, to us? We didn't have kids, thank God, but we'd been together for almost 10 years. 10 years of memories, of shared dreams and plans for the future, all shattered in a single night. I started the car and drove aimlessly for a while, not knowing where to go. I ended up at a 24-hour diner on the edge of town, the kind of place where no one asks questions. I slid into a booth and ordered a coffee, needing something to ground me. As I sat there, staring into the dark liquid, I felt a hollow ache in my chest. Emily's face kept flashing in my mind, her smile, her laugh, the way she used to look at me with love. When had it all changed? How had I missed the signs? I pulled out my phone and saw the dozens of missed calls and messages from Emily. I didn't want to read them, but I needed to know what she had to say. Her texts were a mix of apologies and explanations, but one phrase kept repeating, "It didn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything." The words echoed in my mind, taunting me. If it didn't mean anything, why do it? Why risk everything we had for something so meaningless? The waitress brought my coffee, and I thanked her with a half-hearted smile. As I took a sip, I realized I had a choice to make. I could go home, confront Emily, and try to work things out, or I could walk away, leave it all behind, and start fresh. For now, I decided to sit in that diner, drink my coffee, and let the weight of the night settle over me. Tomorrow would bring more decisions, more heartache, but tonight I just needed to breathe. The next morning I woke up in my car, parked in some empty lot near the diner. My neck was stiff from sleeping in the driver's seat, and the events of the previous night came rushing back. The anger simmered just below the surface as I made my way home, dreading what I would find. When I pulled into the driveway, Emily's car was already there. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. This conversation was going to be hell, but it had to happen. As I walked through the front door, the house felt different, colder, emptier. I found Emily sitting at the kitchen table, her eyes red and puffy from crying. "Patrick, we need to talk," she said softly, her voice trembling. "You are damn right we do," I snapped, slamming my keys down on the counter. "Start talking!" Emily flinched at my tone but didn't back down. "I know what you saw looked bad, but it's not what you think. Really," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm, "because it looked like my wife was all over my best friend. Explain that to me." Tears welled up in her eyes again, and she wiped them away angrily. It was a mistake, okay? I had too much to drink, and Jason, he was there. It didn't mean anything. Stop saying that, I shouted, my anger boiling over. You keep saying it didn't mean anything, but it meant something to me. It meant everything to me. How could you throw away our life together for a meaningless fling? Emily stood up, her own anger rising to match mine. You think I don't know that? You think I'm not beating myself up over this? I hate myself for what happened, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, we can work through it. I shook my head, my heart breaking all over again. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Trust is the foundation of a marriage, and you destroyed it. Please, Patrick, she begged, reaching out to touch my arm. I love you. I don't want to lose you. I pulled away from her touch, the pain too raw. I need time to think. I need to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do now. Without another word, I turned and walked out the door. I got back in my car and drove aimlessly, the weight of her betrayal pressing down on me. I ended up at a park, sitting on a bench and staring at the empty playground. Memories of happier times flooded my mind, picnics with Emily, lazy afternoons spent reading under a tree, the way she used to laugh at my stupid jokes. I pulled out my phone and saw more messages from Emily, along with a few from Jason. I ignored Jason S. messages entirely and read through Emily S. She was desperate, pleading for another chance, promising that it would never happen again. Part of me wanted to believe her, to go back to the way things were, but another part of me knew that things would never be the same. I spent hours sitting on that bench, replaying everything in my mind, trying to make sense of it all. Finally, as the sun began to set, I made a decision. I needed to confront Jason, to hear his side of the story, to get some kind of closure. I drove to Jason S.'s apartment, my stomach in knots. When he opened the door, his face was a mess of bruises and his nose was bandaged. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him, but then I remembered why I was there. Can I come in? I asked, my voice tight with anger. Jason stepped aside, letting me in. The tension in the room was palpable as we sat down, facing each other. Patrick, man, I am sorry, Jason started, but I held up a hand to stop him. Just tell me the truth, I said. How long has this been going on? He hesitated, then sighed. It happened a few times over the past couple of months. I know that is not what you want to hear, but you deserve to know the truth. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. A few times? So it wasn't just last night. You've been sleeping with my wife for months? Jason nodded, looking ashamed. It was a mistake. I wish I could take it back. I never meant to hurt you. I stood up, my hands shaking with rage. Well, you did. You both did. And now I have to figure out how to pick up the pieces of my life because my wife and my best friend betrayed me. I turned and walked out, slamming the door behind me. As I got back in my car, I felt a strange sense of clarity. This was the end of one chapter of my life and the beginning of another. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for sure: I couldn't go back to the way things were. Driving back home, I felt a mix of sorrow and relief. The confrontation had been painful, but it had given me the closure I needed. Now, it was time to face Emily and make the hardest decision of my life. When I got back home, the house was dark except for a small light in the living room. Emily was sitting on the couch, her face buried in her hands. She looked up when she heard the door, her eyes red from crying. Patrick, she started, but I cut her off. I talked to Jason, I said, my voice flat. He told me everything. Her face crumpled, and she nodded, fresh tears streaming down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I know I hurt you. I was stupid, and I regret it every single day. I stood there, looking at her, the woman I had loved for so many years, and felt a strange mix of sadness and anger. Why, Emily? Why did you do it? She shook her head, unable to meet my eyes. I don't know. I was lonely, and things between us weren't great. Jason was there, and it just happened. But it didn't mean anything. I swear it didn't. Stop saying that, I shouted, my voice breaking. It meant something to me. You broke my trust. You broke our vows. How am I supposed to get past that? Emily sobbed, her whole body shaking. Please, Patrick, please don't leave me. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I don't know if I can. Right now, all I know is that I need some space. I need time to think. She nodded, her expression desperate. Okay, take all the time you need. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I turned and walked upstairs, my mind racing. Our bedroom felt like a stranger-s room, the bed we had shared now a symbol of betrayal. I grabbed a suitcase from the closet and started packing some clothes. Emily followed me up, standing in the doorway, watching silently. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice small and broken. "To a hotel," I replied, not looking at her. "I can stay here right now." She didn't try to stop me. As I finished packing, I felt a sense of finality. This was it, the beginning of the end. I zipped up the suitcase and headed for the door, pausing to look back at Emily one last time. "I'll call you when I am ready to talk," I said. "But for now I need to be alone." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand. I love you, Patrick. Please remember that." I didn't respond. I walked out of the house, the door closing with a soft click behind me. The drive to the hotel was a blur, my mind numb. I checked in, got to my room, and collapsed on the bed, staring at the ceiling. How had it come to this? How had my life unraveled so completely in such a short amount of time? The woman I loved, the life we had built together, it all felt like a distant memory now. I spent the next few days in a haze, going through the motions of daily life but feeling disconnected from everything. I avoided calls and messages from friends and family, not ready to explain what had happened. I just needed time to process, to figure out what my next steps would be. One evening, as I sat in my hotel room, I realized I couldn't hide forever. I needed to face this, to make decisions about my future. I decided to call my brother James. He had always been my rock, the one I turned to in times of crisis. "Hey, Patrick," James answered, his voice warm and reassuring. "How are you holding up?" I took a deep breath, feeling a lump in my throat. "Not great, to be honest. Can we meet up? I need to talk." "Of course," he said without hesitation. "Where are you? I'll come to you." I gave him the address of the hotel, and an hour later he was sitting across from me in the small hotel room, a look of concern on his face. "So, what's going on?" he asked gently. I told him everything, finding Emily and Jason at the bar, the confrontation, the betrayal. He listened quietly, his expression growing darker with each detail. "Man, that is rough," he said finally. "I can't believe she did that to you. What are you going to do?" I shrugged, feeling the weight of indecision pressing down on me. "I don't know. Part of me wants to try and work things out, but another part of me feels like I'll never be able to trust her again." James nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "It's a tough call. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and once it is broken, it's hard to rebuild. But you have to do what's right for you, Patrick. Take the time you need to figure things out." His words made sense, but they didn't make the decision any easier. As we talked, I realized that there was no simple answer, no quick fix. This was going to take time, and it was going to be painful. In the days that followed, I reached out to a therapist, hoping that talking to a professional might help me sort through my emotions. The first session was awkward, but as I started to open up, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could find a way to heal. I also contacted a lawyer, wanting to understand my options. The thought of divorce was terrifying, but I needed to be prepared for any outcome. Meanwhile, Emily continued to text and call, her messages a mix of apologies and pleas for another chance. I responded occasionally, but kept my distance, needing the space to think clearly. One evening, as I sat in the hotel room, I received a message from an unknown number. It was Jason. "Patrick, can we meet? I owe you an explanation." I stared at the message, a surge of anger rising within me. The last thing I wanted was to see Jason, but maybe hearing him out would give me some closure. Reluctantly, I agreed to meet him the next day at a coffee shop. When I arrived, Jason was already there, looking nervous and contrite. He stood up when he saw me, his face a mess of bruises and cuts from our last encounter. "Patrick, thanks for meeting me," he said, his voice shaky. "Let's get this over with," I replied, sitting down across from him. Jason took a deep breath, looking me in the eye. I know there's nothing I can say to make this right, but I need you to know that I never meant for this to happen. It started off innocent, just talking, confiding in each other. But then it escalated and I didn't stop it. I betrayed you and I'm sorry. His words, while sincere, didn't bring the comfort I had hoped for. Instead, they deepened the sense of loss and betrayal. You were my best friend, Jason. I trusted you. How could you do this? He looked down, unable to meet my gaze. I don't know. I wish I could take it back. I know I've lost your trust and I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to hear it from me. I stood up, feeling a mix of exhaustion and resolve. I've heard enough. I don't want to see you again, Jason. Stay away from me and stay away from Emily. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I understand. I'm sorry, Patrick. Truly. I walked out of the coffee shop feeling a strange sense of finality. The conversation hadn't brought closure, but it had given me the resolve to move forward. As I got back in my car, I made a decision. I couldn't go back to the way things were, but maybe I could find a way to move on. It was time to take control of my life, to figure out what I wanted, and to start rebuilding. The following weeks were a blur of therapy sessions, lawyer meetings, and long introspective nights. I found solace in the routine of work and the gym, channeling my anger and frustration into something productive. It wasn't easy, but each day I felt a little stronger, a little more in control. Emily continued to reach out, but I kept my distance, needing the time and space to heal. It was hard, though. I missed the way things used to be, but I knew that I needed to focus on myself first. One evening, after a particularly grueling workout, I sat in the locker room, scrolling through my phone. There was another message from Emily, and for a moment I considered deleting it without reading, but something made me pause. I opened the message and read her words. Patrick, I know I've hurt you, and I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that I'm getting help. I'm seeing a therapist too, trying to understand why I did what I did. I love you, and I want to be a better person, whether or not we end up together. Please, just give me a chance to prove that I can change. I stared at the message for a long time, my heart aching. Maybe she was sincere. Maybe she was genuinely trying to change. But could I risk my heart again? The next therapy session, I brought it up with Dr. Thompson, my therapist. She's seeing a therapist too, I said. She's trying to change. Does that mean anything? Dr. Thompson leaned back in his chair, considering my words. It's a positive step, Patrick. It shows that she's taking responsibility for her actions and wants to understand herself better. But the decision to reconcile or not ultimately lies with you. Trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. It will take time, effort, and a lot of honest communication. I nodded, feeling the weight of his words. I don't know if I can ever trust her again, but part of me wants to try. That's understandable, Dr. Thompson said. It's natural to want to hold on to the good memories and the love you once shared, but you need to be sure that you're not setting yourself up for more pain. Take your time. There's no rush to make a decision. I left the session feeling more confused than ever. I decided to take Dr. Thompson's advice and not rush into anything. I needed to focus on myself, to heal, and to figure out what I truly wanted. A few days later, I ran into an old friend, Mike, at the gym. We hadn't seen each other in years, but we used to be close. He immediately noticed something was off and asked me to grab a drink with him. Over beers, I told him everything. Mike listened quietly, his expression thoughtful. That is some heavy stuff, man, he said finally. But you know what? You deserve to be happy. Whether that's with Emily or on your own, you need to do what's best for you. His words resonated with me. I had been so focused on the pain and betrayal that I hadn't thought about my own happiness. What did I want? What would make me happy? That night, I made a list things I wanted to achieve, things that brought me joy. It was a simple exercise, but it helped clarify my thoughts. I realized that I had been living in limbo, afraid to make a decision, afraid to move forward. The next morning, I called Emily and asked her to meet me at a park near our house. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting on a bench, looking nervous. I took a deep breath and walked over to her. Thanks for meeting me, I said, sitting down beside her. Of course, she replied, her voice trembling. I'm glad you called. We sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between us. Finally, I spoke. Emily, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I miss you, and part of me wants to try and work things out. But the truth is, I don't know if I can ever fully trust you again. And without trust, we don't have a foundation. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I understand, Patrick. I really do. I hate what I did to us, and I'm so sorry. But I'm working on myself, trying to understand why I did what I did. I want to be a better person, for me and for you. I know, I said softly, and I'm glad you're getting help. But I need to focus on myself, too. I need to figure out who I am without us, without this pain hanging over me. Emily reached out and took my hand, her touch sending a jolt through me. I love you, Patrick. I always will. If you ever decide you want to try again, I'll be here. But I understand if you need to let go. I squeezed her hand, feeling a bittersweet mix of love and sorrow. I love you too, Emily. But right now, I need to find my own way. Maybe someday we can find our way back to each other. But for now, I need to move forward. She nodded, her tears falling freely now. Okay, I understand. We sat there for a while, holding hands, both of us mourning what we had lost and acknowledging that it was time to move on. It was one of the hardest moments of my life, but it was also a turning point. As I walked away from the park, I felt a strange sense of peace. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. I was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that I had the strength to move forward. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of changes. I moved out of the hotel and into a small apartment on the other side of town. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and it felt like a fresh start. The process of setting up my new place, choosing furniture, decorating, making it feel like home was oddly therapeutic. I also threw myself into work, taking on new projects and pushing myself harder than ever. My boss noticed the change, and after a few months, I was promoted to a higher position with more responsibilities. The new role was demanding, but it also gave me a sense of purpose and achievement. Meanwhile, I continued to see Dr. Thompson, working through my feelings and trying to make sense of everything that had happened. Therapy was helping, slowly but surely, and I began to feel more grounded and in control of my life. One evening, as I was leaving the office, I ran into an old colleague, Lisa. We hadn't seen each other in years, but we used to work closely together on a few projects. We decided to grab a drink and catch up. Over beers, we talked about work, life, and everything in between. I found myself opening up to her about what had happened with Emily. Lisa listened intently, her expression sympathetic. That's tough, Patrick, she said, after I finished recounting the story. But it sounds like you are doing all the right things to move forward. It's not easy, but you are handling it well. Thanks, I said, feeling a warmth in her words. It has been a rough road, but I am getting there. We ended up talking for hours, and by the time we left the bar, I felt a genuine connection. It was the first time in a long while that I felt excited about something other than work or therapy. Over the next few weeks, Lisa and I started seeing each other more often. We went out for dinners, explored new parts of the city, and even took a weekend trip to the coast. It was refreshing to spend time with someone who understood me and shared my interests. One evening, as we were walking along the beach, Lisa turned to me, her eyes thoughtful. Patrick, I really enjoy spending time with you. But I need to know, are you ready for something more? I don't want to rush you, especially after everything you've been through. I appreciated her honesty and took a moment to gather my thoughts. Lisa, I like you a lot, and I think we have something special. I'm still healing, but I want to see where this goes. I want to take it one day at a time and see what happens. She smiled, her hand slipping into mine. I can do that. One day at a time sounds perfect. As we continued our walk, I felt a sense of hope and possibility. Life was moving forward, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next. Months passed, and my relationship with Lisa grew stronger. We were careful and deliberate, making sure to communicate openly and honestly. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when the past would creep up on me, and I'd feel a surge of doubt or fear. But Lisa was patient and understanding, and together we navigated those rough patches. Meanwhile, I continued to focus on my own growth. I picked up new hobbies: rock climbing, painting, cooking, anything that brought me joy and helped me rediscover myself. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones, building a support network that helped me feel less alone. Emily and I stayed in touch sporadically. Our conversations were civil, sometimes even friendly, but we both knew that things would never be the same. She was still seeing her therapist and working on herself, and I hoped that she would find her own path to happiness. One day, as I was sorting through some old boxes, I came across a photo album from our early years together. Flipping through the pages, I felt a mix of nostalgia and sadness. We had shared so many good times, so many dreams for the future. It was hard to reconcile those memories with the pain of the betrayal. But as I looked at those photos, I realized something important. Those memories were part of my story, part of who I was. They didn't define me, but they had shaped me in ways that I was only beginning to understand. And while the past was painful, it had also led me to where I was now, a place of growth, of healing, of new beginnings. Later that evening, Lisa came over for dinner. As we sat on the couch, enjoying a bottle of wine, I told her about finding the photo album. "It's just strange," I said, "but looking through those pictures made me realize how far I've come. I still have a lot to figure out, but I'm not the same person I was back then. And that's okay." Lisa smiled, her hand resting on mine. "That is more than okay, Patrick. It is part of your journey, and I'm glad I get to be part of it." As we sat there, talking and laughing, I felt a sense of peace that I hadn't felt in a long time. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in a while, I felt genuinely excited about what lay ahead. And so, I continued to move forward, one day at a time, embracing the challenges and joys that came my way. It wasn't always easy, but with the support of friends, family, and Lisa, I knew that I was on the right path. The path to healing, to growth, to a brighter future. Things were going well with Lisa, and I was finding my footing again. Life seemed to be getting back on track. I was spending more time at work, taking on new projects, and even making plans for the future. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. One evening, I received a call from Emily. I hesitated before answering, not sure if I was ready to hear what she had to say. We had kept our distance, and I was finally feeling some semblance of normalcy, but curiosity got the better of me. "Patrick," she said, her voice shaky, "I know we haven't talked much lately, but I really need to see you. It's important." I felt a knot form in my stomach. "What's going on, Emily? Can we meet tomorrow? I don't want to do this over the phone." The urgency in her voice was unsettling. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop the next day, my mind racing with possibilities. The next morning I arrived early, nursing a cup of coffee and trying to prepare myself for whatever Emily had to say. When she walked in, she looked tired, worn down. She sat across from me, fidgeting with her hands. "Patrick," she began, her eyes welling up with tears. "I am pregnant." The words hit me like a freight train. Pregnant? My mind struggled to process the information. "What? How?" She took a deep breath. "It happened right before we split up. I didn't know until recently. I've been seeing a doctor trying to figure out what to do." My emotions were a whirlwind: shock, confusion, anger, and a strange sense of protectiveness. "Is it mine?" Emily nodded, tears spilling over. "Yes, it is yours." I leaned back in my chair, trying to catch my breath. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I was scared," she admitted. "I didn't want to make things worse between us, but I knew I couldn't keep this from you." I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. "So, what now?" "I don't know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wanted you to know because it is your child too. I don't expect anything from you, but I thought you deserved to know." I sat there in silence, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. This was the last thing I expected, and I had no idea how to handle it. But I knew one thing: I needed time to think. "Emily, I need some time to process this," I said finally. "This is a lot to take in." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I understand. Take all the time you need." As I walked out of the coffee shop, My mind was a jumble of thoughts. A baby. My baby. How was I supposed to move forward with this new information? How would it affect my relationship with Lisa? I needed to talk to someone, to figure out my next steps. That evening, I met with James, my brother, and told him everything. He listened quietly, his expression a mix of concern and surprise. "Wow, that S a lot," he said finally. "But you need to figure out what you want, Patrick. This is your child, and you have to decide what kind of role you want to play in their life." "I know," I said, feeling overwhelmed, "but it's so complicated, with Lisa and everything that S happened." James put a hand on my shoulder. "You have to be honest with Lisa. She deserves to know what's going on, and you need to figure out what you want, not just for you, but for your child." His words made sense, but they didn't make the situation any less daunting. I thanked him and headed home, my mind still reeling. The next day I called Lisa and asked if we could meet. We went to our favorite cafe and I could tell she sensed something was wrong. "Patrick, what ass's going on?" she asked, her eyes full of concern. I took a deep breath and told her everything. About Emily, the pregnancy, and the uncertainty I felt. Lisa listened quietly, her expression shifting from surprise to understanding. "Wow," she said softly. "That's a lot to take in. How are you feeling?" "Confused," I admitted. "I don't know what to do, but I wanted to be honest with you to let you know what is going on." Lisa reached across the table and took my hand. "Thank you for telling me, Patrick. I appreciate your honesty. This is a huge thing, and I understand if you need time to figure things out." I felt a surge of gratitude for her understanding. "I don't want to lose you, Lisa, but I need to figure out what this means for me, for us, for the baby." She nodded, her grip on my hand tightening. "Take all the time you need. I will be here supporting you." Over the next few weeks, I tried to sort through my feelings. I continued seeing Dr. Thompson, who helped me navigate the emotional maze. I met with Emily again, discussing the logistics and what kind of involvement we wanted for each other. I also spent a lot of time talking with Lisa. She was incredibly supportive, but I could see the uncertainty in her eyes. This was a big deal, and it would change everything. One evening, as I sat with Lisa, we talked about the future. "Patrick, I care about you deeply," she said, her voice steady. "And I want to be part of your life, whatever that looks like. But you need to figure out what you want, for yourself and for your child." Her words struck a chord. I realized that I had been so focused on the situation itself that I hadn't taken the time to really consider what I wanted, what kind of father I wanted to be. Over the next few weeks, I made a decision. I wanted to be involved in my child's life, to be a good father, and to support Emily in whatever way I could. It wouldn't be easy, but it felt right. I met with Emily and told her my decision. She was relieved, and we started making plans for the future, discussing how we would co-parent and support each other. I also talked to Lisa, letting her know my decision. She was supportive, but I could see the concern in her eyes. We agreed to take things one day at a time to navigate this new chapter together. Life was about to get a lot more complicated, but I felt a strange sense of peace. I was ready to face whatever challenges came my way, knowing that I had the support of the people who mattered most. As I looked forward to the future, I knew that there would be difficult days ahead, but I also knew that I had the strength to get through them. One step at a time, I was rebuilding my life, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next. With the decision to be involved in my child's life made, the days began to take on a new rhythm. Emily and I had numerous conversations about co-parenting, setting up a plan for how we would navigate this unexpected journey. We decided to be civil and supportive, focusing on what was best for our child. Meanwhile, my relationship with Lisa continued to grow. She remained patient and understanding, but I knew this situation was taking a toll on her too. We spent a lot of time talking about our future, ensuring we were on the same page. One evening, as we sat on the balcony of my apartment, watching the sunset, Lisa turned to me, her eyes serious. "Patrick, I need to know where I fit into all of this. I love you, and I want to be with you, but I need to understand what our future looks like." I took her hand, squeezing it gently. "Lisa, I love you too. This situation is complicated, but I want you to be part of my life, part of our child's life. I know it's not going to be easy, but I believe we can make it work." She nodded, her eyes softening. "I want that too, but we need to be clear about our boundaries and expectations. I don't want to feel like a third wheel in your co-parenting relationship with Emily." "I understand," I said, pulling her closer. "We'll figure it out together, one step at a time." As the months passed, Emily's pregnancy progressed, and we settled into a routine. We attended doctor appointments together, and I started setting up a nursery in my apartment. It was a surreal experience, preparing for a child in the midst of so much emotional upheaval, but it also brought a sense of purpose and joy. One day, while we were setting up the crib, Emily looked at me, her expression a mix of gratitude and sadness. "Patrick, I know this isn't how we envisioned our future, but I'm grateful that you are here, that we are doing this together." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "Me too, Emily. We may not be together, but we'll always be connected through our child. We'll make this work." As Emily's due date approached, the reality of becoming a father started to sink in. I felt a mix of excitement and fear, but I knew I had the support of Emily, Lisa, and my family. The day Emily went into labor was a whirlwind. She called me early in the morning, her voice tense with pain. "Patrick, it's time." I rushed to the hospital, my heart pounding. When I arrived, Emily was already in a room, surrounded by medical staff. I took her hand, trying to offer some comfort. "You've got this," I whispered, my own nerves barely under control. Hours later, our daughter Lily was born. The moment I held her in my arms, all the fear and uncertainty melted away. She was perfect, and in that instant I knew I would do anything for her. Emily and I shared a quiet moment, marveling at the tiny life we had created. It was a bittersweet moment, knowing that our relationship had changed so drastically, but also feeling a deep sense of connection through our daughter. The first few weeks were challenging as we navigated the complexities of co-parenting. There were sleepless nights, countless diaper changes, and moments of sheer exhaustion, but we managed. Emily and I communicated openly, ensuring that Lily's needs were always prioritized. Lisa was incredible throughout it all. She stepped up in ways I hadn't expected, supporting me and even helping with Lily when she stayed over. One evening, as we sat on the couch, Lily asleep in her crib, I turned to Lisa, overwhelmed with gratitude. "I don't know what I would do without you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for being here, for supporting me." Lisa smiled, her eyes shining with love. "Patrick, we are in this together. I love you, and I love Lily. We'll make this work no matter what." As the months passed, we settled into a new normal. Co-parenting with Emily became more seamless, and Lily brought joy and light into our lives. Lisa and I continued to grow closer, and I knew that she was committed to being a part of our family. One afternoon, while Lisa and I were at the park with Lily, she turned to me, her expression serious. "Patrick, I have been thinking a lot about our future. I want us to build a life together, to be a family. But I need to know if that is what you want too." I looked at her, feeling a surge of love and certainty. "Lisa, I want that more than anything. You, me, Lily, we're a family, and I want to build a future with you." She smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Then let us do it. Let's build our future together." With that, we began to plan for the future, discussing everything from living arrangements to our hopes and dreams. It wasn't going to be easy, but I felt confident that, together, we could handle anything. Life continued to move forward, filled with both challenges and joys. There were moments of doubt and frustration, but also moments of deep connection and happiness. Through it all, I remained focused on being the best father I could be, on building a strong, loving relationship with Lisa, and on maintaining a respectful, supportive co-parenting dynamic with Emily. One evening, as I sat on the couch watching Lily play on the floor, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. My journey had been tumultuous, filled with pain and betrayal, but it had also led me to a place of growth and healing. I had learned to navigate life's challenges, to prioritize my own happiness, and to build meaningful, supportive relationships. As I looked around the room at Lily's toys scattered on the floor, at Lisa's smile as she watched our daughter, at the life we were creating together, I knew that despite everything, I was exactly where I was meant to be. The future remained uncertain, but I was ready to face it with open arms, knowing that I had the strength, the support, and the love to handle whatever came my way. One day at a time, I was moving forward, building a life filled with hope, joy, and endless possibilities. The first year of Lily's life was a whirlwind of milestones, adjustments, and growth. Emily and I continued to work together as co-parents, finding a rhythm that allowed us to provide a stable and loving environment for our daughter. Our relationship had shifted from one of romantic entanglement to a partnership focused on the well-being of our child, and surprisingly, it worked well. Lisa was a constant source of support and love, not just for me but for Lily as well. She embraced the role of a parental figure in Lily's life, and watching the bond grow between them filled me with joy. We spent weekends exploring parks, visiting the zoo, and simply enjoying time together as a family. Despite the unconventional circumstances, it felt right. One evening after putting Lily to bed, Lisa and I sat on the couch, wrapped in each other's arms. We had been discussing the future more frequently, contemplating the next steps in our relationship. "Patrick," Lisa began, her voice soft, "I have been thinking about something important." I turned to her, sensing the seriousness in her tone. "What is it?" She took a deep breath, her eyes meeting mine with a mix of determination and love. "I think it's time we talk about moving in together. We've been balancing two homes for a while now, and I feel like we're ready for the next step." Her words filled me with a sense of excitement and certainty. "I have been thinking the same thing, Lisa. I want us to build a home together, for us and for Lily." We spent the next few weeks searching for a place that could accommodate our growing family. We wanted somewhere with enough space for Lily to play and grow, and for us to build a life together. After a few weeks of searching, we found the perfect house, a cozy two-story home with a large backyard and plenty of room for Lily to run around. Moving in together was a significant step, and it came with its own set of challenges. We had to navigate merging our lives, belongings, and routines. But despite the occasional bumps, it felt like we were creating something special, something solid and enduring. Emily was supportive of our decision. She and I had built a strong co-parenting relationship, and she understood that this move was a positive step for all of us. We established a schedule that allowed Lily to spend time with both of us, ensuring that she felt loved and secure. One weekend, after we had settled into our new home, we decided to host a small housewarming party. We invited close friends and family, wanting to share our joy and celebrate this new chapter in our lives. As we gathered in the backyard, watching Lily play with her cousins and friends, I felt a deep sense of contentment. James pulled me aside, a beer in hand and a grin on his face. "You've come a long way, brother. I am proud of you." I smiled, clinking my bottle against his. "Thanks, James. It's been a journey, but I feel like I'm finally where I am meant to be." He nodded, his expression turning serious. "And how are things with Emily? It can be easy juggling everything." "It is not," I admitted, "but we found a way to make it work. Our focus is on Lily, and that helps keep things in perspective." He clapped me on the back. "That's good to hear. And Lisa, she's been incredible through all of this." "She really has," I said, glancing over at Lisa, who was laughing with some of our friends. I couldn't have asked for a better partner. As the evening wore on and the party wound down, I found myself reflecting on the past year. It had been filled with challenges and unexpected turns, but it had also brought growth, love, and a deeper understanding of what truly mattered. That night, as Lisa and I lay in bed, she turned to me, her eyes filled with warmth. "Patrick, do you ever think about the future? About what comes next?" I nodded, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "All the time. I want to build a life with you, Lisa. I want to create a home where Lily feels loved and secure, and where we can continue to grow together." She smiled, her hand resting on my chest. "I want that too, and I know we can make it happen, one step at a time." As the days turned into months, our bond grew stronger. We faced challenges head-on, supporting each other through the ups and downs. We celebrated Lily's milestones together, her first steps, her first words, and all the little moments in between that made our hearts swell with pride. Emily and I continued to co-parent effectively, and I appreciated the effort she put into making sure Lily felt loved and supported by both of us. Our relationship, though different from what it once was, had become one of mutual respect and cooperation. One summer afternoon, Lisa and I took Lily to the park for a picnic. As we sat on a blanket watching Lily chase butterflies, Lisa turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Patrick, I've been thinking a lot about family," she said, her eyes soft. "About what it means and what we want for the future." I nodded, sensing where she was going. "I've been thinking about that too. I want us to be a family in every sense of the word." She smiled, a hint of excitement in her eyes. "What do you think about getting married? Making it official, not just for us, but for Lily too?" Her words took my breath away. Marriage. It felt right, like the natural next step in our journey together. "Lisa, I can't imagine my life without you. I want to marry you, to build a future together." We embraced, the promise of a shared future filling us both with joy and anticipation. Over the next few months, we planned our wedding, a small, intimate ceremony with close friends and family. Emily was supportive, understanding that this was an important step for all of us. The day of the wedding was perfect. We stood in a beautiful garden, surrounded by the people we loved most. As I looked into Lisa's eyes, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought us here. "I, Patrick, take you, Lisa, to be my wife," I said, my voice steady with emotion. "I promise to love you, to support you, and to build a life with you, one filled with joy, laughter, and endless possibilities." Lisa's eyes shimmered with tears as she repeated her vows. "I, Lisa, take you, Patrick, to be my husband. I promise to love you, to stand by you, and to create a home where we can grow together, where Lily can thrive, and where our love will always be strong." As we exchanged rings and sealed our vows with a kiss, I felt a wave of happiness wash over me. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope and promise. Life continued to unfold, bringing with it both challenges and triumphs. We faced each obstacle together, our bond growing stronger with each passing day. Lily thrived in the loving environment we had created, and our family grew closer with each shared experience. One evening, as we sat in our backyard watching Lily play, I turned to Lisa, my heart full of love and gratitude. "Thank you," I said softly, taking her hand in mine. "Thank you for being my partner, for standing by me, and for helping me build this beautiful life." She smiled, her eyes filled with warmth. "Thank you, Patrick, for letting me be part of your journey. I love you, and I love the life we've built together." As the sun set, casting a golden glow over our home, I knew that no matter what the future held, we would face it together, with love, strength, and unwavering support. One day at a time, we were building a life filled with joy, laughter, and endless possibilities. Life as a newly blended family brought its own set of joys and challenges. With each passing day, we navigated the complexities of our relationships and responsibilities, growing stronger as a unit. Lisa's transition into a parental role alongside Emily and me was seamless, and it was heartening to see how well they communicated for the sake of Lily. As the years rolled by, Lily grew into a bright, curious, and loving child. Her presence was a constant reminder of the unexpected paths life could take and how those paths could lead to beautiful destinations. Watching her develop a close bond with Lisa made me realize how lucky I was to have such a strong, supportive partner. One day, as we were planning Lily's third birthday party, Emily approached me with a thoughtful expression. "Patrick, there's something I've been meaning to discuss with you." I looked up from the list of party supplies, intrigued. "Sure, Emily. What is on your mind?" She took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "I've been offered a job opportunity in another city. It's a great career move for me, but it would mean moving away. I wanted to talk to you about how we could manage co-parenting with this change." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. The thought of Lily living in a different city was daunting, but I understood that this was important for Emily's career and personal growth. We needed to find a way to make it work. "Wow, that's big news," I said, trying to process the information. "I understand why you'd want to take this opportunity, but we need to figure out how to ensure Lily feels secure and loved by both of us." Emily nodded, her expression earnest. I agree. I was thinking we could arrange for Lily to spend summers and holidays with me, and I could visit frequently. We could also make use of video calls to stay connected. It was a lot to take in, but I knew we could find a solution that worked for everyone. That sounds reasonable. We'll need to work out the details, but I think we can make it work. Over the next few weeks, we had numerous discussions and meetings to plan the logistics of co-parenting across different cities. Lisa was incredibly supportive, helping me navigate the emotional and practical aspects of the transition. The day Emily moved was bittersweet. We held a small farewell gathering, celebrating her new opportunity while acknowledging the changes it would bring. As we hugged goodbye, I felt a mixture of sadness and hope. Take care, Emily, I said, my voice filled with genuine emotion. We'll make this work for Lily. She smiled through her tears. Thank you, Patrick. We'll make sure she knows she's loved by all of us. With Emily's move, our lives adjusted to a new rhythm. The house felt different without her frequent visits, but we adapted. Lily adjusted remarkably well, quickly becoming accustomed to the new arrangement of video calls and extended visits. One summer, during one of Lily's extended stays with Emily, Lisa and I decided to take a much-needed vacation. We chose a cozy cabin in the mountains, hoping to reconnect and recharge. As we sat by the fireplace one evening, enjoying the peaceful surroundings, Lisa turned to me with a contemplative look. Patrick, I've been thinking a lot about our future. We've built a wonderful life together, and I want to keep growing and exploring new possibilities. I smiled, feeling a warm sense of anticipation. I feel the same way, Lisa. What do you have in mind? She took a deep breath, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I've always wanted to start a small business, something we could do together. I was thinking about opening a little bookstore and cafe in town. It would be a place where we could share our love for books and create a cozy, welcoming environment. Her idea filled me with enthusiasm. That sounds amazing, Lisa. I'd love to do that with you. Let us make it happen. The next few months were a whirlwind of planning and preparation. We found the perfect location, a charming old building in the heart of town, and began the process of renovating and setting up our bookstore cafe. It was a labor of love, and the entire community rallied around us, excited to see our dream come to life. Opening day was a huge success. Friends, family, and neighbors came to celebrate with us, enjoying the cozy atmosphere, delicious coffee, and carefully curated selection of books. It was everything we had hoped for and more. As the business grew, so did our bond. Working together brought us closer, and we learned to navigate the challenges of entrepreneurship with grace and teamwork. Lily loved spending time in the cafe, often helping us stock shelves or serving customers with a bright smile. One evening, as we closed up the shop, Lisa turned to me with a contented sigh. I can't believe how far we've come, Patrick. From the chaos of our early days to building this beautiful life together, it feels like a dream. I wrapped my arm around her, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. It's been an incredible journey, Lisa, and I wouldn't want to share it with anyone else. As we locked up and headed home, I reflected on the twists and turns that had brought us to this point. Life had thrown us plenty of challenges, but each one had only strengthened our resolve and deepened our love. One day at a time, we continued to build our future, embracing each new chapter with open hearts and unwavering support for one another. The past had shaped us, but it was the promise of tomorrow that fueled our journey. The years rolled by, and our bookstore cafe became a beloved community hub. Lily thrived, growing into a confident, curious, and compassionate young girl. Our family was a testament to resilience, love, and the power of embracing change. One afternoon, as we sat in the cafe watching Lily read a book in the corner, Lisa turned to me with a thoughtful expression. Patrick, do you ever think about adding to our family? Maybe giving Lily a sibling? Her question took me by surprise, but it also filled me with a sense of excitement. I have thought about it, Lisa. I'd love to have more children and expand our family. She smiled, her eyes shining with happiness. Me too. Let's see where this journey takes us. And so, with hearts full of hope and anticipation, we embraced the next chapter of our lives. Whatever challenges lay ahead, we knew we would face them together. one step at a time, with love as our guiding force.